Hi, Nick Park here from Evangelical Alliance Ireland, and welcome once again to our weekly message. It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. And I'm joined again today by Trevor Hill.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Trevor. And we chatted before a few weeks ago, and if you haven't seen that interview, do check it out. If you subscribe to the channel, then you've already probably found that. But I promised then that we would talk to Trevor again about Plumbline. So I've come all the way back to Athlone again. No, I haven't really. We're filming one straight after the other. But Trevor, I want to hear from you about the whole Plumbline Ministries, how it came about. I think there was a guy Simon from England, wasn't there?
That's right, Simon Matthews.
Yeah,
it was. We moved to Galway in 1989.
Yeah.
I had to do a 2-year course, became a 3-year course. And so Simon used to come as a visiting ministry to the church, and he would have taught some things in the course as well.
Yeah.
So that's my first encounter with him. Graham Wiley, who was leading the church and leading the Irish Christian Training Centre, as it was called. He was looking to get connected with other people. Now you're talking about, 1989. There weren't a lot of churches. Thank God it's very different now with new churches springing up.
Yeah.
So back then, we would have had a relationship with Gary Davis in St. Mark's, and really a lot of our young people would have gone there for their weekends, their youth weekends and things like that. And Gary and Graham were good friends. But Gary was coming in with then it was the AOG.
God, yeah.
So Graham was just looking for something a little bit different.
And Simon wasn't he connected? There was like a restoration movement taking place in England with the Dales Week and the Wales Week and Terry Virgo and all those kind of guys. So you had these different networks.
Yeah, that's right. And what happened was, some of the people before we came to Galway, they would have gone to some of those Bible weeks. And Graham, they had contact with a number of people. But eventually when Simon was coming as a visiting ministry, maybe twice a year, Graham really felt he wanted to pursue something beyond that. And Simon and his ministry, which was called Plumbline, just Plumbline in the UK, they were growing quite rapidly and planting in different regions in the East Anglia. So, he invited Graham and some of us over for some of their events. They had leaders retreat, they had a camp in the summer, things like that. We got to know. I suppose it's like everything else, you can join an organisation and not be connected.
Yeah.
Whereas this was based on friendship and developing friendships, and there's a world of difference.
Yeah.
So we didn't realise at the time when we were in Galway, but Simon's base was Huntington, which was the home of a certain Mr. Oliver
Cromwell, yes.
Which had an interesting response, let's say. But again, we could see almost a prophetic thing in that. So anyway, the decision was made. We talked with Simon through, and the way he worked was, rather than signing up lock, stock and barrel, let's have a courtship period, which I think is a great idea, because you can say one thing and then you discover maybe it's not as it is. So we did that for about a year, and then we got to know them, they got to know us, and they certainly were a big help in the early days, because we were a church plant that was developing but needed a lot of help. So basically what happened, we formalised that. So Galway Christian Fellowship at the time would have been the first church that was part of Plumbline. And as I say, that would have been probably the early 90s. but they were a great help. And Simon had a team of people, and they would have come over on a regular basis. I think at the height of Plumbline in Ireland from the UK, Simon or one of his team was here once a month whenever we had other churches as well.
Right.
Because we hadn't other churches at the time, and then Kilkenny wanted to know about coming on board on Arklow. Mm-hmm. And so that's where it started. Then we started to do a week's camp, or sort of a holiday stroke Bible, something similar to, not as big obviously as the Dales Week and things like that. We did it down in Red Cross for 10 years. And it's interesting because my surname's Hill, and when I went to meet the lady in the camp, there was another Hill. I'm sure people know Gary and Larry, and they'd run for many years a week's event in Red Cross as well. Mm-hmm. So the first thing she asked me, "Oh, are you related?" So we're not related by blood,
just part of the family.
Part of the family, exactly. Yeah.
Now you talk about the relationships, and that is something I've noticed, because over the years I've had the privilege of, I think, 2 occasions of coming and speaking at your Irish gathering, and I've always been really struck at the strong bonds of fellowship and relationship that there are between the people from the different churches within Plumbline.
I mean, we're not a big network. Mm-hmm. I think at a time we had 7 churches, but what we have as well is ministries who are part of Plumbline. Yeah. And I have to say, the ministries who are part of Plumbline are seasoned people. Mm-hmm. They have been through everything. They've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and yet they're still pursuing God. Yeah. So we've a great resource in them. And the strength of Plumbline, I would say, is the relationships, because it's lasted over a long period of time. Mm-hmm. Our challenge is the next generation, and that's really, when I step aside from leading River of Life here, I'm planning to have more time to focus on Plumbline. Yeah, I think the same as another person not too close from me.
We were talking about that, about how stepping out, or before we start filming, I was saying how stepping out of one role gave me more headspace for another one.
So I might be coming to you for advice on that, as I often do.
So at the beginning, Graham was heading up the Irish sort of end of Plumbline, and then you were pastoring the church in Galway.
I was the day-to-day pastor.
But then at some stage, then you stepped up to follow Graham as the leader of Plumbline in Ireland.
Yes, that's right. We never thought of doing it, first of all. A bit like never thought of moving from Galway to Athlone. Yeah. Sorry. So I think we were having a meeting. We were having some difficulty with the Galway church when Graham moved from it. And there was a leadership structure there that was a little bit different from the way Plumbline operated. So sadly, we decided to part company with the Galway church. Graham, I saw the grace of God in Graham, how he handled that from start to finish. And I'm glad today to say that has been fully restored. You know what I mean? There's been good relationships. Praise there God, again.
Because talking about those things is never easy. And sometimes in the public we sort of talk about all the successes and how things went well, but sometimes dealing with those difficult situations with grace is the true test of leadership, isn't it?
I think it is. I think it is, definitely. And I think others saw how Graham handled that as well. Because just like River of Life is our baby, Galway Christian Fellowship was he and Fran's baby. So there was it was very emotional. So it was after one of the leaders' meetings with Graham and I went up to meet with the elders. And it was okay, it was a good meeting. But we stopped for something to eat, and then we got into the car, and then that's when he popped a question. Because he had felt by the time he was, I think it was 65, he wanted to sort of be released from some things, and one of the big things then was Plumbline, and also Hope Trust, which he initiated. So he asked me in the car as we were coming from Galway to Athlone. He was living in Roscommon at the time, and I think there was a bit of a silence to the answer. I was shocked. I think my automatic reaction is, I'm not a Graham Wiley, surely there's somebody better equipped than me. And then he said he and Simon had talked it through and felt, that at least to offer us that. Mm-hmm. So I didn't give him an answer there and then, obviously, because I think like everything, you at those sort of decisions, you want to be making sure that God is in it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
If He's not in it, you're
sunk.
You're sunk, exactly. And so I went home and, of course, told Diane, and she was as shocked as I was. But we just waited and just sounded out a few people as well, and felt, maybe this is God. Mm-hmm. And got over the, what would you say, the obstacle of trying to be or do it the way Graham did it. Mm-hmm. And I think what I did then, whenever we said, we would take up that mantle, I said, I want to meet with 2 other people and have a core team. Mm-hmm. Even before we had agreed to take it over in September 2015. So I think this was maybe March time. So we met with the core, what is now the core team, although it has grown a little bit, thankfully, eventually. So we ended up saying yes to that. And as I say, one of the things was my age, because I was approaching 60. And I thought, I'll do it. I'm 65. I think it was 3 years into it that I realised I'm only getting my feet under the table. Yeah. I knew everybody, they knew me, but it's very different. And you've probably had this because you've led a lot of things. Very different when you are strresponsible for something. Even if you're not hands-on at it, you're still responsible. As opposed to just coming and attending something. So I had to get used to that because people were looking for questions, the answers, what's happening. But there was a good core team, because it's not something that Diane and I can do on our own, And so we've sought to develop that. We've moved. We've basically what we do. We have 3 Plumbline days a year. And we had a week's camp. I think I mentioned that before in the previous one, where we had a week's camp down in Red Cross. Actually, at the start of this, I can't remember whether it was the last video or this one. So basically, we've stopped that, and we try to meet as leaders as well. Mm-hmm. So when COVID came, of course, nothing was happening.
Knocked everything to 6.
It did. But then, of course, we discovered Zoom and all those wonderful things. So, we've had, the meal time, men's fellowship time on Zoom, and Diane does a women's fellowship time on Zoom. So we need to, we'll be trying to develop that. It keeps you in touch without having to travel. So I think we haven't restarted them for a little while, because I think our focus has been on River of Life and trying to do that. So we're really looking forward to having the time, the space, like you say, to do something within Plumbline.
Yeah, because really, I guess now it's looking what does the Lord got for Plumbline in the future, and
exactly
who's he going to raise up, and how that going to work.
I thought I had my successor in Plumbline actually quite soon after I take it over, and so I'm not sure that they know it yet, and I had a chat, so I'm not sure that they're even considering it. But it's one of those things, isn't it? You might not see somebody here in the immediate.
Yeah.
But God can bring somebody in or raise somebody up, and I think that's where the trust comes in, isn't it? You know, because
Well, look, I want to thank you for what you've been doing with Plumbline, because, look, there are many fine independent churches out there, but I just believe there's a power in cooperation and a power in networking, and I believe in movements, and I believe in, whether you call it a denomination or a movement or a network or whatever, but I believe in them. I think there's a strength and a power and an accountability there, but it can't happen without somebody being prepared to stand up and sort of take the flak and take that national leadership role within a movement. So thanks for what you've been doing with Plumbline and are continuing to do moving forward, Trevor.
Well, we're very grateful for the relationships we have outside of Plumbline, Nick, with yourselves and, you know, the CCI movement. We have great friendships there as well, and Elam, and some of the maybe churches that maybe would have a different theological viewpoint than us. We still have good relationships, and that's what you want. You know what I mean? Because heaven's going to be an interesting place.
It is. It certainly is. Yes.
But yeah, no, you've been a great encouragement personally to me, Nick.
Oh, but
also to Plumbline. We've had you a few times, and we'd have you back again, no problem. You've been very encouraging.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah. I'll give you that $5 later for saying that. Well, look, we've run out of time here. So thanks for joining us here as I've been talking with Trevor about the whole Plumbline network. If you'd like to know more about the Plumbline network, is there...
Yeah, you can actually go on our website, plumbline.ie.
Okay, well, that's easy, plumbline.ie.
It's probably the easiest thing to do, and there's details on there.
Okay, fantastic. But look, join us again next Friday. We'll be back again for another, it might be Friday, but Sunday's coming. Until then, God bless you in Jesus' name.
God bless. Bye.